Hello guys, welcome to another video lesson, and in this video lesson you guys will learn about how to find the slope and the meaning of slope when we look at a line or a set of data. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, here are some vocabulary words for today. You have the rise, run, and then slope. Now the rise is the difference of the y values of 2 points on a line. The run is the difference in the x values of 2 points on a line. Basically, to find the difference, remember that to find the difference we need to subtract. Alright, so to find the difference in the rise we have to subtract. And also to find the difference in the run we need to subtract as well. So basically what we're doing is subtract the y values and subtract the x values. Now the slope right now is the ratio of the rise over the run. Alright, so again you get the change in y divided by the change in x. Now the true definition of the slope is that it is the constant rate of change. It shows you how the line is changing at a constant rate. Alright, so blank is the ratio of blank to horizontal blank. So let's fill that out. So the slope is the ratio of vertical rise to horizontal run. So again, it is the ratio of the rise, which is going to be our y values, to the run, which is going to be our x values. So it is y over x. Alright, so the change in y over the change in x, this little symbol is called delta, and delta in math and science means to subtract to get the change. Alright, so of course we know when we're finding change when we go shopping we have to subtract. Alright, the slope is rise over run. Alright, so slope is rise over run, so you can see the rise like the sun is rising. And then we have run. Alright, you run with your feet. Alright, and this little guy is called the slope man. Alright, so remember Mr. Slopeman, we will use it a lot in this lesson to help us out. Alright, alright, so Mr. Slopeman have one weakness. He can only run to the right. He cannot run to the left, and he cannot run backwards. So he can only run to the right. So keep that in mind. He can only run to the right. So one thing you need to remember is that Mr. Slopeman can only run to the right, which is this way. He cannot go to the left. Alright, so keep that in mind. So here we need to determine whether this slope is positive or a negative slope. Now let's take a look at what Mr. Slopeman is going to do. So we have the change in the y-axis and the change in the x-axis, which is going to be our run. So if we were to place Mr. Slopeman now, remember Mr. Slopeman can only move to the right. Alright, so we need to keep that in mind. Alright, so he will be moving uphill, so that means the slope will be a positive slope. Okay, since he can only run uphill, so the slope here will be positive. Alright, So lines with a positive slope go uphill from left to right. So again, all you have to do is visualize Mr. Slopeman at the bottom, and which way will he be moving? He'll be moving up. So that'll be positive. So I want you guys to determine what these lines are. Are they positive or negative lines? Go ahead and answer that. Alright, so these lines will be positive slopes since Mr. Slopeman will be moving uphill. So these will be positive lines. Alright, so they will be positive. So now let's take a look at another one. So here we have the rise, and then here we have the run. Alright, so now remember Mr. Slopeman cannot move to the left, so I cannot put Mr. Slopeman down here because he won't be able to go to the right. He would have to go to the left, so that's a no-no. Alright, so he has to be up there, and which way will he be moving? Alright, so he will be going downhill, and when he goes downhill, that means the slope will be negative. Alright? Alright, so you guys go ahead and determine these lines, whether they are. So again, we bring out Mr. Slopeman, and he will be going downhill. Okay, so here we are going to find the slope of this line. So remember that the slope of a line is the difference between the rise over run. So remember, it's always rise, which will be going along the x-axis, the y-axis first, and then overrun the x-axis. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 points on the line. As long as it is 2 solid points, I cannot choose a point that is right here. It will be very hard to read, so we will need to find 2 good points. That means that forms a cross. Alright, so first thing, we are going to rise, and then we run. Now we just have to count the moves. Alright, so we rise 2 times, and we run 2 times. So again, Slopeman right here will be moving uphill. This tells us that the slope here will be a positive slope, and when we reduce 2 over 2, the slope will be 1. Now whenever we are talking about the slope, we need to make sure we reduce it. So here the slope will be 1. Alright, so here is another example. We are going to choose 2 points. Now here we are starting at the y-intercept. Okay, we rise, and then we run. So we rise 3 and run -1. Now it is -1 because here we have, from here we go up 3, and then we have to go to the left. So if we have to go to the left, that means it's a negative move. So we have to go back. So it's a -1. Keep that in mind, please. So the rise will be 3, and the run will be -1. Now if we bring out Mr. Slopeman, he'll be going downhill, and you can clearly see that the slope here will be -3, because 3 divided by -1 will give us -3. So make sure, depending on your move, if you move up, that'll be a positive move. If you go to the right, that'll be a positive move. If you go down, that'll be negative, and if you go to the left, that will be a negative move as well. Alright, your turn. Go ahead and find the slope of this line. Pause and then come back. Alright, welcome back. So here you can choose any 2 points. Here we are starting at the y-intercept. I prefer to usually start at the y-intercept. Usually that prevents us from having to simplify at the end. Alright, and another point right here. So we rise 1, so that'll be a positive 1. And then we run to the right 2, so that'll be a positive 2. So again, the rise was 1, and the run is 2, so I cannot simplify this any further, so we are going to leave it that way. Alright, so that will be a positive slope, and the slope will be half. Now m is the symbol for slope. Alright, so here we are going to find the slope between the following points. Now one thing we can do, we can actually graph the points. Alright, and then we draw the line, and now we can go ahead and find the slope. So here we had to go up 3, we go up, we rise, and the run. So here the rise here is 4 and the run here is 2. I usually prefer to do it on the other side, on this side, but it doesn't really matter. Alright, so since we're moving uphill, so this will be a positive 2. The slope here will be positive 2 once we simplify the rise over the run. Now another way we can do it, let's say this was a table, alright, and we had to find the slope. So all we really have to do is to find the difference. Remember, the slope is the difference in the y values or the rise, and then we find the difference in the x values. So here we say 5 minus 1 is 4, and then we say 6 minus 4, and that will be positive 2. Notice I started with a 5 here, I have to start with a 6 here. I cannot say 5 minus 1 is 4, and then here I'm going to say 4 minus 6. So here I'm going to end up with a negative number. So if I start with a 5 down here, I have to start with a 6 down here. And this is very important for when we do the next examples. Alright, and then you can see clearly the difference in the range will be 4, positive 4, and the difference in the x's will be positive 4, and we still end up with positive 2 for slope. Alright, go ahead and try this one. Alright, so here is the answer. Alright, so here again we could say alright, so again here we say negative 3 minus 3, which gives us negative 6, and then 5 minus negative 1, and that one will be positive 6. Alright, so when we're dividing a positive and a negative, we'll end up with a negative 1 here for the slope. Alright, go ahead and try this one again. Alright, so here the difference in the range will be 2. So here we have to say 6. I usually like to start with the one with the biggest value. So here I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to say 6 minus 4 over 9 minus 1. So that when I do start with the biggest number, it prevents us to deal with nasty negatives, but sometimes we cannot avoid them. So 6 minus 4 will be 2, 9 minus 1 is 8, and then when we simplify them, alright, so when we simplify, we will get 1 over 4. Alright, so the slope here will be 1/4. Alright, go ahead and do this one, pause, come back and get the answer. Alright, so again we are not graphing. Alright, so here's the answer to this. So again we find the difference in the y's. In this case it's negative 81. Again it's negative 52 minus 29 over 14 minus negative 31. So notice I started with negative 52, so I have to start with a 14. Alright, and here we have the slope will be negative 9 over 5. Alright, so here is the formula. Now this formula you guys will see it on Okay, so here we have to find the slope, we do y's of 1 minus y's of 2. Now sometimes in some books it's written the other way around. Sometimes they have it as y's of 2 minus y's of 1 over x of 2 minus x of 1. Now if you notice, this is y's of 1, that means we are starting with point 1, and x of 1, again point 1. So it really doesn't matter which point you start with, as long as you keep your ratio constant. If I decide to start with point 2, subtract point 2 from point 1, then I have to keep it the same way when I do it for the x. Alright, so let me go ahead and erase this. Alright, so here we have 2 points. So again, it's best to start with the biggest points, the point that have the bigger values for x and y. So that way we don't really end up with negative, but we will do it both ways. So here again, remember we have, this is x, y, x, y. So here we decide to start with point 1. So it's going to be 6 minus, so we're going to do 6 minus 4, and then 9 minus 1. So again, we are starting, both of these have to be 0.1 since that's what we started with. Alright, and here the slope will be 2 to 8 or 1 to 4. Alright, so the slope here will be 1 to 4. That means we are going to rise 1 and then 1 4 if we were to graph this. I want to do it the other way around, where I'm starting with 0.2. If we are starting with 0.2, it's going to be 4 minus 6 over, again since I decided to start with 0.2, 1 minus 9. And this will be 4 minus 6, which is negative 2. 1 minus 9 is negative 8. Alright, and at the end of the day, we still end up with the slope being 1 to 4. So again here, a negative divided by a negative, we will get a positive slope. So it doesn't really matter which point you start with, as long as it's consistent. Alright, so go ahead and try this one. No, let me go ahead and do this one. So here we have nasty negatives, so really it doesn't matter which one we start with, we'll still have to deal with them. So be very careful. So here we are going to do 3 minus negative 3. You must write it this way. Okay, it's 3 minus negative 3, not 3 minus 3. Okay, it's 3 minus negative 3. And then here we have negative 1 minus 5. Alright, so we end up with 6 divided by negative 6, and our slope will be negative 1. Alright, so it's very important. Now I want to do it again the other way around by starting with 0.2. If I start with 0.2, I'll have to say negative 3. Again, remember, we need to always start with the y's. So it's going to be negative 3, negative 3 minus 3 over 5 minus negative 1. Again, we're finding the difference, minus negative 1. And here we will end up with negative 6. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. Now 5, this turned into a big plus. 5 plus 1 is 6. So again, I will still end up with a negative 1 slope once we reduce this. Alright, so here we have a table that's telling us how much money Andre and Marla earn working at the concession stand. So we need to first graph this and then find the slope and then determine what the slope is telling us. Alright, so to graph this, we'll just go ahead and plot the points. And now to find the slope. Now to find the slope, all we do is basically get the difference between two of those values. Alright, so if we were to do it from the graph, alright, if we were to do it from the graph, we will be going up once. So remember, this right here will represent 15. It's 0, 15, so each loop represent 15, so this will be positive 15, and then we will run 2 times. So this is 2, 3, 4, so we went 1, 2 over 2. So the slope here from the graph would be 15 over 2 hour. Again, going back to the graph. Alright, so this is the time and this is the amount. So again, this is the amount right here. That would be my change in y values, and the amount tell us the time. So this would be 15 over 2, or 7.5 over dollars over 1 hour. So this would be $7.50 per hour. Alright, now sometimes we need to find the slope of this. So to find the slope of this line, we can choose any point. So we decide to use 4, 3, and 1, 3. Now let's go ahead and find the difference. So 3 minus 3 is 0, and then we have negative 3. So remember, it's always the y-axis over the x, the range over the domain. So when we do 0 divided by negative 3, our answer will be 0. So whenever you have a line like this that is completely horizontal, the slope will always be 0. Okay, so if we bring on Mr. Slopeman, is he moving? How fast is he moving? 0 miles per hour, right? Alright, he's going 0 miles per hour. He's not moving. So the slope here will be 0. Now another type of graph we need to keep in mind is one that is going straight down, straight vertical line. Alright, if we were to choose any 2 points and we find the change in y and the change in x. Alright, so now in math we all know that we cannot divide by a 0. Alright, we cannot divide by 0. That's a big no-no. In that case, the slope here will be undefined. So picture Mr. Slopeman moving. What do you think is going to happen if he's skiing down the slope? Okay, so the slope here of any vertical line will be undefined. Alright, so that was it for today, and hopefully you guys understand how to find slope very easy. And it's so we'll be going over this again in class. You guys will have a quiz on it. Make sure you go back, rewind, rewatch whatever you didn't understand. Okay, so that was it for today.